Hello everyone, welcome to the episode 54 of SoLeadSaturday. The guest we have today, Dr. Miquel. He is a founder of Artificial Intelligence Finance Institute, Chief Development Officer at Global AI, and Practical Big Data Professor at NYU STEM School of Business. So let's just welcome him and hear more about his career journey. How did he find his area of interest and managing to lead that? So welcome Dr. Miquel. Very happy to have you on the show and appreciate all your time and consideration being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's a real honor to be here. I think you're leading a very interesting series of interviews with leading people, so I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. And I'm also very excited to listen more from you because you are leading the artificial intelligence space and that too in the specific domain, which is finance. So let's begin. To begin with, our first question is towards the passion and interest. So how did you find your interest in the big data and AI field and what steps did you take to pursue that passion?
Yeah, so after my graduation back, a bunch of years ago in '94. Uh, so at that time, I've always been mathematical and have always been some sort of an analytics person. But then I started working at KPMG, right, one of the big four, and then I kind of discovered the thing that, oh, I like finance, right? So during the studies at university, right, I wasn't especially attracted to finance, right? Yes, to maths and statistics, but not especially finance. And then I started seeing companies, and when I bumped into a big bank, then I saw, well, this is my thing. I like that. I care about this, right? So I think when you find that, right, when you find inside you that this is the things you care about, I think this is a good idea to start thinking about. Yeah, you want to build your career on this direction, on the direction of quant finance, analytics, and on the direction of applying that to finance. Obviously, a lot has changed since then, but it's still deep in my some sort of professional soul, right? The fact that I care about maths, computer science, and how can they be used for in the finance domain, in banks, in asset managers, and now it's a very special moment. I have to say, we are in 2020. I think in a unprecedented unprecedented time of change for several reasons, right, that we can discuss during our conversation.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And moving towards our next section is questions from the audience. So the first question that I have shortlisted is why AI will be the future for financial services.
Yeah. So, uh, so finance, it's when we try to define mathematically finance and empirical too, we see that in finance we have lots of models that they work reasonably well or not, right? So the models in finance are tricky, right? So are modern portfolio theory, option pricing, prediction, and so on and so forth, not easy, right? In finance, as we all know, financial markets are complicated animal, right? So when you start you start defining modeling time series, fractal models, risk, you quickly realize, or we realized that it was all supervised learning, it was all unsupervised learning, it was all reinforcement learning, right? So we started, I think or when I did my PhD thesis back in 2010, so it's relatively recent, right? So I then started to some sort of see people and look at more deeply computer science stuff, in the sense, oh, these models can be applied to finance. We haven't been applying that to finance, but it makes all the sense, right? And as I said before, In 2020 now we live in a situation in which everything is changing if you think about it. So obviously we have the pandemic, right, that changed all the data sets. But we have, for example, big changes in the interest rate space with the change of LIBOR, and all customers, all financial services, so to speak, clients are at home, right? And that creates a series of challenges for data analytics, for digitalization, and so on. And that's why I think that we're living in a extremely interesting. And I want to also mention two specific some sort of technical spaces, which is reinforcement learning. We do think reinforcement learning has a lot of future, and obviously natural language processing. So we just scratched the surface on the amount of things that can be done doing text analytics, right? Now that pretty much, I would say, I don't know the percentage, but maybe 90% of what we do is to write things to people, right? Or to browse in the internet or look for, I don't know, an equation, or work on novel leaf and so on and so forth. So we do lots of things, right? And NLP, obviously, it's going to be very important.
Thank you so much for sharing. And the next question that we have is, what would be good big data strategies, and what would be some of the best practices for organizations to handle the big data?
Right. So it obviously depends if, for example, a big bang, it all starts by, right? Big bangs, it all starts by, you have a large amounts of data. Think about a big bang in Europe, in India, or China, or in the United States. So you have potentially thousands of customers that do lots of things, do lots of transactions, they payments, right? They invest in stocks. And so on. So if banks want to make some sort of efficient use of the information, it all started maybe 5 years ago with all the big data, right? Because we now talk more about AI. AI, it's obviously big data in the sense that it all starts with data. Algorithms need to work with data, need to learn with data, right? And banks have that, have large amounts of data, large amounts of customers, lots of features. They know lots of things about them that we can discuss. Also, the sort of the cons, right, of this. But anyway, so they need to first put together data lakes. They need to put together first all the data in one place, right? And the data has to be curated, quality data, and so on and so forth. And then data analytics, the data analysts or data scientists can some sort of start asking questions to the data set. And this asking questions to the data set is obviously is good. They're going to be doing that with domain experts, with finance experts, with marketing experts. They're going to say, how can do we know the clients that might be interested into this new credit card that we want to launch, right? And so on and so forth. So that's one side. On the asset management side, we have also an incredible change, and it goes hand in hand with alternative data. So the fact that we know many more things, right, about companies. We know many more things about consumers, and these data in the form of alternative data sets can be bought, and then you can use that in your investment processes. So as I said, it's just everywhere in which we have large amounts of data, and there we need to use basically AI, big data. This is the right place to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And that makes sense actually, the way you mentioned it, that how the teams come together, like you mentioned, that there will be their domain expertise, or there will be marketing people, and it is kind of a collaborative environment when it comes to handling the big data plus AI, like
I,
combined
I
together.
think that the good teams, the companies that do well big data is because they have found a good combination in their teams of computer scientists that some of these data problems need skilled computer scientists because there's a large amounts of data, right? So that's one. But all you need data analysts or data scientists, so they need people that's good at maths and coding, and then you wouldn't have good results. You need domain experts, right? So you're doing risk, you need risk expert, credit risk, for example. You need a risk expert that has been through several crises, and they may be right. All of them can do a good job, right? If one of them is missing, you're probably not going to do a good job.
Yes.
So the teams, this is a team effort, right? And we think that the companies do that well are putting together these three kinds of profiles.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, and hope this answers the audience question as well. Moving
Mhm.
towards our next section is fun segment, which we introduced since couple of episodes. So I'm going to give you three words, and you have to tell what comes to your mind immediately. So it is kind of abstract content. You don't
Yeah.
have to be like elaborative, but it's just what comes to your mind when you hear these words. So the first is finance.
Yeah. So change. So times of change, right? Evolution, transformation.
Mhm. Okay. The next word is mathematics.
Well, mathematics is what bind is everything, right? I was thinking why maths is so important, right? Maths is so important because this is the common language. If we
Mhm.
can all speak when we talk about our models, right? When we talk about what are we doing with our algorithms, because software uh, software languages, Python, C++, and so on, they change. So maybe next year we have another one that it's called Moon, right? Or whatever, right? And what makes us and we can some sort of transfer what we learned from the past because a set of mathematical equations should mean the same thing in 10 years that they mean now, right? If we probably try to read code from 10 years ago in another language, maybe we'll have troubles, right?
Mhm.
So that's why maths are so important, and maths are this common language that is needed, right? And
Yeah.
it's obviously allow us to discover things, to compute things, and so on and so forth. So I think maths are at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the third word is teaching.
Yeah. So yeah, that's also an interesting one.
Mhm.
Yeah. So teaching is some sort of yeah. You also have to care about transferring knowledge and
Mhm.
inspiring people, right, into into whatever subject, right? AI or maths or finance. So now young generations or maybe professionals want to update, and I think the two ideas of being able to make them learn difficult stuff,
Mhm.
maths, code. Oftentimes, we just when I teach, we have a notebook, we have slides, and we write things, right? So it's an era in which we some sort of using lots of supports,
Mhm.
right? Because you need to code, you need to be able to read maths, you need to be able to understand what's going on,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So and at the same time inspiring people, right?
Mhm.
It's very important because over my career, right, you probably don't remember the brightest professor you had. Well, I guess that you do, right? That say, I had especially brightest professor, but also whoever inspired you on the direction, the love for the subject, the integrity, and the I think so we owe a lot, right, to the education system,
Mhm.
not only because they give us jobs, right, but also because they educate us, and we should educate people to, again, to work with integrity, to work hard, right? Because hard work is and talent is what is needed, right? We have one or the other is very hard, to be successful in big data or finance or as a football player, right?
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for sharing, because it is very hard when we have to describe these terms in the teaching. Like, like the way you mentioned, like all these three words are like a big terms actually. When it comes to the abstract content, it's really very hard to explain them. So thank you so much for sharing. And moving towards our next section is about exploring your work-related career and the volunteering. So the first question around that is, being advisory board member of FDP, the global designation for finance professionals in data-driven industry. What are your roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, so several high-profile
Mhm,
um, institutions started 2 years ago, right? My institute, but also Financial Professional Data Institute. We saw, and on FDPI, we see a tremendous opportunity on some sort of teaching and transferring knowledge to finance professionals on the data science, right?
mhm,
And and we think that it's just the right time, right? Um, Beforehand, right? Finance was okay. We need a lot of domain knowledge, right? And this is true. You cannot play football if you don't know some sort of foundations. If you don't know what's a bond, if you don't know what's a stock, if you don't know what's an option, well, it's hard to do anything, right? But I would say CFA, these kind of certifications are some
mhm,
sort of start. And but then, right, and that happened to me at the beginning of my career. I quickly realized you need uh, a bunch of technical skills, right?
mhm, mhm,
With this is not enough. So know how to kick a ball is not the same thing as playing football. Knowing what's a command in MATLAB is not the same thing as writing a reinforcement learning algorithm, right?
mhm,
So this is yeah. So this is how um, and we had so far, and also at AAFI, so a very large number of delegate students
mhm,
that are working very hard, right, and incredibly um, enthusiastic about having a group of really engaged people of all ages, right, veterans, just undergrads, postdoc students, looking at all these algorithms and the code and being very excited about it. So we're very happy about that.
mhm. Yeah, thank
Mhm.
you so much for sharing. It was
Yeah.
really insightful. So moving towards the next question is, would you like to talk about AI5? You are a founder of Artificial Intelligence for Finance Institute, and provide some insights to the audience.
Yeah, so we founded Artificial Intelligence Finance Institute, right, 2 years ago, right, a little bit more with Michael Weinberg,
Mhm,
right, and at that time, right, we saw what I mentioned, right,
mhm,
uh, the need of education, the need of education in that space is it's very important, bro. So we said we're in New York. We have a bunch of good machine learning and finance professionals. We have a bunch of masters of financial engineering here. We think it's a good opportunity, some
mhm,
sort of to gather, yeah, people like Peter Cohn, Peter Carr,
mhm,
Janet Wing, Armando Gonzalez. So we're very glad to have some sort of the brightest minds in the industry. They collaborate with us
mhm,
into basically providing training
mhm,
for financial professionals, fintech professionals, computer scientists, postdocs. So we've had a very nice mix of people. And in addition to that, we do a lot of research, right? So writing papers, we wrote a paper a month ago with Sonam Srivastava
mhm,
on, on, on reinforcement learning deep reinforcement learning and US used in US equities, right? So we're also trying to contribute, right? What I've learned or we've learned during our careers is that we should be giving a lot to the community in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that you should be talking about your papers, you should be being in debates, panels, right? You know, in order there's a lot of common challenges, right, for all finance practitioners. On AI, there's a lot of challenges, obviously, right, that are not only technical, right, about one algorithm, two algorithms, which one is the best, but many other challenges like ethics, like privacy and fairness and so on. So there's a lot to do, right? So I'm on the board also of the CFA Quant Investing and in the Journal of Machine Learning in Finance. So we're also trying to drive and push the community to do more research and share, right? So one of the differences of now compared to 25 years ago is that the community is incredibly open-minded in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that, back at that time, we had papers, we had, software, right? But it was licensed, and now, well, we have all that is open source. We have a bunch of papers, we have a bunch of good books. So we think it's a moment in which you can choose lots of ways to some sort of enhance your knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. Thank you so much. And the third question that we have under this section is, you are a Chief Development Officer of Global AI. So what is it about and what it aims for?
Yeah, so I advise a company called Global AI.
Mhm.
This is a very exciting project too. There, what we do is what we do at Global AI is we produce also algorithms, right? So it's just let's say the implementation of the technical knowledge we have in real problems, right?
Mhm.
And some of the real problems are very interesting is ESG problems, environmental, social, and governance problems, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. So we use algorithms, NLP algorithms, to some sort of read, do text analytics, trying to measure sentiment, and help these other transformation that finance is going on sustainability, right? So this is also a very, I would say, the other transformation that it's undergoing on finance. So the fact that investors are saying, I do not only care about returns, I also care about the social and the climate and so on impact on society, right? Which I think um, it's a very important development.
Mm. Yep, yep. That is very valid point. And thank you so much for sharing. Those are kind of a really very good, insightful things. And the way you are leading that global AI. So thank you so much. Moving towards our next section is about tips and advice. So any tips and advice would you like to give to the students or the professionals who are trying to get into this field or trying to grow in this field?
Yeah, I think it goes back to basics in the sense that the first thing, obviously, you need to break into data analytics overall or AI. You obviously need, to speak and be able to work uh, on algorithms. So that means maths, code, right? And statistics have to be something which you need strong foundations, right? Uh, Really strong foundations. And I don't see how a data scientist can be successful if it's not good, reasonably good. And I'm not saying you have to be a PhD in all these subjects, but it's obviously you have to be able to understand and talk and use all these tools, which I said it's also easier than ever because all these tools are open source. You can use this in your laptop and so on and so forth. So technical skills are essential, right? The second thing, it's obviously hard work, right? So there's a lot of people, right, breaking into that. there's obviously a lot of open positions, but there's also lots of people in the market. So you have to show, and you have to be, and in order to be successful, you need to work very hard, right? So this is what, and obviously, data scientists say you also need good communication skills. Yeah, of course. Well, we cannot be superwoman or superman, and we cannot just be on a 10 on everything we do, right? But it's clear that data scientist is expected to some sort of have reasonable communication skills, right? Because you work in a project, you have some results, and now you need to convince your clients, your bosses, society, or the supervisors, right? They're asking questions about your models, right? So you need to be able to some sort of communicate, explain, and so on. So that means that for the ones who were not English native, right? So English is absolutely very important, right? It's obvious to everybody. I'm just saying that for students that come to the US or other places, right? Obviously, in a good, except, well, excellent English is absolutely needed, right? So, right. And yeah, so I think, and and if you want, so if you want to do all this, it's probably because you care about this, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think if you're a kind of an analytics person,
Mhm.
uh, so you probably right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those capabilities can be developed actually if people are open to the new learnings. So thank you so much for sharing. And the way you are speaking, you are truly leading the artificial intelligence and big data space. So what is your leadership style, and any specific leader that you always follow or admire, and why?
Ooh, it's hard to say because I was thinking about that because I've been in the professional environment and you see people that it's as a some sort of business leadership, and in universities you see more kind of a technical leadership,
Mhm.
right? But from all of them, right? I don't know. I could say names like I don't know, like Emmanuel Derman, right? When I started teaching at Columbia, or some of my bosses in UBS, etc. So a good boss is somebody who has who cares deeply about obviously the purpose, right? Of if it's portfolio management or right, it has to also care about people,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We're all here to some sort of win games,
Mhm.
right? But we need to win games motivating people, right, and not just with the stick, right? So we need to stick, the carrot, and so on, and the passion on the purpose. I think it's very important, and at the same time, I think integrity is very important. So the fact that you some sort of transmit values to your team of integrity, of right, it's essential, right? And now, if you're a professor, what I was saying, so it's not enough by just delivering, right? It's important to try to inspire your students to right? To work hard
Mhm.
and so on.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And just
Yeah,
to sum up, I would say that be hardworking if you are trying to get into this space, as well as open to the new learnings. And as Dr. Miquel mentioned, along with your technical skills, soft skills are more important as well. So have that balance and keep learning. So thank you so much. And on that note, we can end this episode. And as I always say, until we meet, happy leading. Let's lead together. Stay safe. Bye for now.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.